Welcome, citizens of the United Empire of Earth, to the Citizen Inquisitor. I'm Citizen Dale, and I'll be your guide in an attempt to navigate Star Citizen and the UEE. In this series, we're looking at the history of Star Citizen in terms of the stretch goals set forth by Chris Roberts and Cloud Imperium Games. In parts 1 through 3, we reviewed the stretch goals from September 2012 into November the same year. A combination of donations from both Kickstarter and the RSI website contributed to the $6 million goal being achieved. Let's take a quick moment to touch on something. The original objective of Chris Roberts was to get $2 million in pledges to show investors that there was a demand for a space sim. The $6 million they received blew this out of the water. Roberts and company realized that they didn't need traditional investors. This game could be developed for the people and financed by the people. After making the decision to move forward with crowdfunding, no new stretch goals were introduced for a couple months. However, during that time, donations continued to be accepted through the RSI website, and eventually the $9 million stretch goal was announced. When this goal fell quickly in late April 2013, it guaranteed that everyone who pledged before June of that year would receive an RSI Class II spacesuit, as well as lifetime insurance, or LTI we call it, on their ships. At this time, in early July 2013, any new backers, which are people who had never pledged to Star Citizen before, would not be able to receive LTI for the package they received when they made their pledge. However, LTI was still available to original and veteran backers for a few more months. LTI is said to be gone for good as of November 2013. If you remember back to part 3 of this series, CIG was already going to use motion capture for the cutscenes in Squadron 42. Renting equipment and studio time for motion capture, however, is extraordinarily expensive. By hitting the $10 million mark, CIG would build their own motion capture studio to record these cutscenes. This allows for a lot more content to be produced long term. Now this is when Star Citizen made history. By surpassing the $10.3 million mark, it became the largest crowd-funded project in history. Not just the largest crowd-funded video game, the largest crowd-funded anything. This was an impressive feat at the time, but second place is so distant now it's almost laughable. When $11 million was hit, another studio was involved. This time it was the studio in Austin, Texas. $11 million meant this studio would get to move to a larger facility, which would allow them room for expansion and hopefully increase the efficiency of the entire studio. Guess what $12 million involved? You guessed it, another studio. This time, instead of using their laptop mics to record the sound for Star Citizen, they'd be building a professional sound studio for state-of-the-art sound effects and their celebrity voice talent. $12 million also added Oculus Rift support for the Hangar module. $13 million finally got back to adding some new features. First was a new ship class for Star Citizen, the Frigate. We're still learning what a frigate's primary role will be, but throughout history they have typically been warships built for speed and maneuverability, so expect frigates to be protecting larger ships from enemy fighters. Also included in this goal was the Command and Control Center. This allows you to oversee a battle from the deck of a large ship like an Idris. You'll be able to assume command of a fleet and issue orders. This adds a real-time strategy element not seen before in this type of game. The $14 million goal started by adding the hibernation mode feature. Prior to achieving this, you would have had to return to a nearby base to save your game. Hibernation mode allows explorers to go to sleep in a bunk on their ship to save and exit the game safely. This goal also included a feature-length behind-the-scenes documentary film getting produced. It also included a 4th location on planet Earth for landing your ship. At $15 million, another new ship class was introduced, the Escort Carrier. Though not much information has been released on escort carriers, historically these were light aircraft carriers, typically around 1/3 the size of a full-size aircraft carrier. For those that pledged before this goal was reached, an upgrade handbook would also be delivered, which would give instructions on how to customize and overclock their ship's systems. The $16 million mark is notable due simply to the timing of this video being made. This goal is when Arena mode was promised. Now we know this is Arena Commander, or the dogfighting module. Log in, dogfight in multiplayer, or face off against the Vanduul Swarm. But don't worry about losing your ship because it's just a simulator inside a simulator. A shiny new laser pistol was also rewarded to everyone pledging before this point. At the end of August 2013, the $17 million stretch goal came and went in about a week. Every pledger to this point also received an upgrade package for their ship, which included an engine modifier, and yet another new flyable ship class was unlocked, the battle cruiser. Again, we don't have much to go on, but battle cruisers are typically similar in size and weaponry to battleships, but have less armor and are faster. Well, that's it for now, Citizen. We put a lot of money behind us with this installment, and in Part 5, we should be able to knock out millions more. We'll also watch Star Citizen become the first AAA crowd-funded game ever. Please subscribe so you don't miss it. Citizen Dale out.